Welcome to an episode of I'd Rather Be Wrestling because I can't stress enough how much I would rather be wrestling than talking about it. I don't like talking about wrestling. I'd rather be in a ring doing it or at least practicing stuff or at least just I want to be in a ring, man. If I had my own wrestling ring, I would probably be doing this inside the wrestling ring. I would probably put my camera on the top rope, perch it some kind of way, and just be like, "Hey guys, welcome to an episode of I'd Rather Be Wrestling," and then all of a sudden just start wrestling a random person. That'd be funny as heck. But nah, I'd rather be wrestling. But while I'm not wrestling, I'd rather take this time to talk about something that's been kind of like plaguing my mind and plaguing my feeds lately. Um, it's AEW. AEW. This obviously there's a very common theme when it comes to AEW is like I don't have cable, so I don't really watch AEW like that. So the bits and pieces of AEW I see, I thoroughly enjoy. Um, but it's like I only watch it like sometimes through the Hulu that my friend had presented for me, and sometimes I watch it on Instagram. So I'd be watching like some cool stuff. And the thing about Instagram that just sort of like messed me up a little bit is that if you go on the AEW's Instagram and you just read the comments, there's just fans who thoroughly despise this company. Like they hate everything about this company for every reason that they could think of. And I just think that that's a little weird because it's like I'm old enough to remember when TNA was kind of just starting to sort of like become its own thing. I'm old enough to remember like there was this WWE call-in show. I forget what it was called, but it was like this was like before social media became a big thing, and the AEW. I mean not AEW, but WWE had a call-in show, and I think Chris Masters had a title opportunity. He had a chance to become world champion. I think it was like one of the elimination chamber matches or something. But like they were like, but fans was like calling into this thing, and you can see Todd Grisham just getting more and more angry because the fans will call into the call-in show. It'd be like TNA is gonna do so much better than WWE. TNA is gonna be the future. WWE is ruined now. WWE is gonna be going like the TNA is better than WWE, and they will just keep doing that over and over and over again. You could see Grisham getting so mad. Like at some point, he was like, "Thanks, another idiot." You know what I'm saying? He was like actually getting very frustrated about it. I forget what the name of that show was called, but like I said, even at some point, Chris Masters was like, guys, there's a possibility that I could become world champion. Want y'all want to talk about that? Some wrestling fans like, nah, nobody wants to talk about that. It's actually about TNA. TNA. You know what I'm saying? There was this blind devotion towards seeing the success of TNA. Obviously, down the line, fans went, back to, status quo and started saying, TNA is actually not that good in comparison to WWE. And it was just like, it was this annoying thing because that's what they would do. Like, and like right now, it's kind of like that with It feels like it's kind of like that with AEW. For a short time, it was like AEW is gonna do so much better than WWE. And now that they believe that it isn't, now it's like, oh no, but it actually isn't. And now I have to hate it because of it. And it's like I don't like I said, but like before AEW came out, people was complaining about how WWE was the only company on TV. You know what I'm saying? And technically, for a time, that was true. You know what I'm saying? Like WWE was for a time the only professional wrestling company that was on TV, like doing a serious syndicated thing. There was other companies out there that were doing stuff. Like I remember IWA Puerto Rico was doing like shows after WWE Afterburn. It would be on it would be on what the channel that used to be UPN, and they will like do that. But yeah. But back then it was just like it was a lot of But the problem is that like even back in the day there was a lot of professional wrestling that was going on. Like wrestling fans usually complain about WWE being the only company, but it wasn't. There was Ring of Honor. There was Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Combat Zone Wrestling, Chikara Pro, One Pro Wrestling in the UK. You had IWS in Canada. You had Full Impact Pro in Florida. You had you know there's another company out in California. I think it's in Barstow. I forget what it's called. But like if we're going international, you got All Japan Pro Wrestling, Big Japan Pro Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Toriumon. Uh, and there was Dragon Gate, and there was like Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre in Mexico. There was AAA. There was Perros del Mal, who that was technically kind of like getting out there for a moment. There was Lucha Libre USA. I don't know if that company is still around, but it was a thing back then. There was another company. I forget what it was called, but it was all. I mean, there was Shimmer. The Glow was actually a thing. I remember. There was another wrestling company too. It was like I said, it was based in California. There was this woman. It was like there was this roller derby woman who also was a wrestler at that company. Her name was Crybaby. She actually added me on MySpace at randoms. Really nice lady. I don't know. She's probably not wrestling. I don't think she's wrestling anymore. I think she got like really sick. There was this other. There was a whole. The fact is, there was a lot of wrestling that was going on back then that wrestling fans genuinely ignored because they rather just say we care about only the wrestling companies on TV. And honestly, I have no problem with that. I have no issue with that. There was nothing wrong with liking wrestling companies that were on TV, but it kind of goes without saying that, like, a lot of wrestlers who you would go on to later see in TNA was a lot of wrestlers that they were sort of selecting out of the indie companies. Like a lot of and that's kind of like one thing I like about AEW right now, and I actually do like AEW. That's kind of what this video is about, is the fact that like there's a lot of wrestlers that I personally met or encountered or had conversations with or spoken to, and a handful of them will go on to grace the stage of AEW. AEW will provide them that opportunity to go out and do things and actually go out there and shine a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like WWE didn't really do that too often. You know what I mean? Or rather, and I'm not saying this to say, yeah. So you like WWE better than you like AEW more than you like WWE? No, I actually like wrestling more. I like wrestling more than I like wrestling fans telling me to dislike wrestling for certain reasons. Let me explain. Like, I just don't like the idea that we've gotten like so much wrestling that we forgot a time where professional wrestling was like really rare, really hard to get. Like you had to buy DVDs, and with me, I was too poor to buy DVDs, so I watched professional wrestling music videos from the MV Zone and from like accounts on YouTube for like a long time. There was this one guy, Tiger Driver, and he would make some really cool videos and stuff like that. But it was just like, this is what I had to do in order to understand what wrestling was back then. And so because of that, I appreciate what I'm being given, because there was once upon a time where that wasn't a thing. So you just like anything, huh? Yes, I do. I do just like anything. Because as a guy who actually wants to become a wrestler, I have to like anything so I can understand what to expect when I get out there. And also, this stuff is good. Well, all they do is botch in AEW. They don't have good wrestling matches. Well, here's the thing about the botches. If you were wrestling in a wrestling match and you try to do something that you were physically incapable of doing 10 times in a row prior, you're going to probably make a mistake about that too. Well, I'm not a wrestler. Exactly. Shut up. So, I mean, that's just something you have to sort of accept. Like, and also, if a match doesn't, like, you've never seen a wrestling match where 100% of the match was botchless. Because if the 100% of a wrestling match was botchless, you'd be like, oh, that was a spot fest. They just did everything. They practiced and rehearsed everything. So, which one is it? Is it too many botches, or is it too rehearsed? Well, it has to be a perfect balance between the two. Well, that's more based on what you want to see than what they're actually doing. One thing I kind of don't like right now is like, so it's like, well, they don't have a lot of people in the seats. They don't sell that many tickets. And yet the company has still been around for this long. So if they're not selling tickets, but the company is like still operating, it's still on television, it's still doing things. Well, it's not on TV anymore. Well, but it's still operating though. There's still AEW still exists. It's not a discontinued company. I mean, they went through like what, 5 champions right now? What's the problem? Are you saying that are you saying that you want the company to fail, or are you saying that it's going to fail if they don't do what you want them to do? Because either of those things just doesn't really make the company look bad. It just makes you look entitled. And I would rather care about what's going on with the company than agree with an entitled fan. So there's that. It's not better. They said they were going to be better than WWE. Well, if you don't think the company is better than WWE, then once again, that's your perspective. That's not a real step. That's not really a thing. I don't care about a company being better than any other company. I like wrestling. I'm just trying to watch wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Wow, this wrestler from AEW can't do good against this wrestler from WWE. I don't care. I want to see a good match between two people that are going to give me a good match. They're going to have a good match regardless. I don't care who wins or who loses or anything like that. I'm just saying, it's just like, if you actually sat down and paid, like, I like wrestling. I like wrestling. So you're saying you'd watch Daniel Garcia versus Akira Tozawa? Heck yeah. I would probably, heck yeah, if that match was a main event, I would watch that. Why? Because the whole show before that is going to be amazing, and that match is going to do spectacularly well. A lot of people tend to forget that wrestlers are good at wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, like once upon a time, Danielson was pushed as a wrestler who was just not that great. He was mid-card at best. Now, he's considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. You know what I'm saying? And every wrestler has the capabilities of wrestling that good. Every single one. Every single one. You turn the switch on, and they know how to do it. But they also know how to wrestle safely. They also know how to wrestle on a time limit. They also know how to wrestle so they don't try to overshadow the other person. There's a lot that goes into a wrestling match that wrestling fans don't care about because they're too busy just saying, these guys are terrible. My whole thing is I'm not trying to hear a wrestling fan I'm not trying to agree with a wrestling fan tell me why I shouldn't like wrestling. You know what I mean? If I'm watching wrestling, I only care about the wrestling. I'm watching wrestling because I like wrestling. I'm watching wrestling because I'm interested in what is going on in the wrestling match. As far as all that other stuff like company finances or who's over and who isn't or backstage crap, I don't care. I just want to watch the wrestling. And AEW is just another company for me to watch the wrestling on. There's some great matches that we have just basically that you can just basically ignore because you're too busy saying AEW is not that great because it's not making any money and it's not better than WWE. Did you even pay attention to any what was the main event of that show that you're responding to right now? I don't care because it's not that good. Okay, we don't have to have a conversation anymore. I'm just saying though, it's just like, it comes across like a big old bandwagon to me, and I'm just not trying. I'm not trying to ever jump on a bandwagon. I like wrestling. If a wrestling match is happening in WWE, I'm gonna watch it. If a wrestling match is happening in AEW, I'm gonna watch it. If a wrestling match is happening in PWS, I'm gonna watch it. If a wrestling match is happening in Reality of Wrestling, I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna give it all the same energy because I like wrestling. What's wrong with liking wrestling? So you're telling me that if a show took place in a gymnasium, you'd still think that it was a good wrestling match? Yeah. Because it doesn't matter where the match is happening. If the match is good, I'ma like it. Heck, I would love for there to be like a WWE show or I would love for there to be like a big time professional wrestling company that would actually like have a show at a gymnasium. Just have a show at a gymnasium, right? Like, like a multi-billion-dollar company selling out a gymnasium. Well, I mean, that'd be obvious. I mean, why would they want to go there? They should go to a bigger venue. Why? I was at a student show just last night. That was the loudest crowd I ever heard. There had to have been like at least only 30 people in that building. No, in the crowd. There had to be at least 30 people in the crowd. Like, in the building overall, there had to be, like, at least 100. But, like, that was the loudest crowd I ever heard. There's this one wrestler, he came out, his family took up an entire part of the stadium. And once he came out, it was the most beautiful cheers I've ever heard. His name was Flame. And you could just hear them go, Flame, 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 Flame. It was loud. It was 30 people. Just 30. Smaller venues ain't bad. Disliking wrestling is, though. Calling yourself a wrestling fan and disliking wrestling. It's like, there's a difference between wanting something and acting like the thing that you want is the best thing on the planet. Like, like if you don't like if there's something that you want, like there's a difference between there's a stupid catchphrase that wrestling fans love saying. They always say, "I've been watching wrestling for X and O amount of years. I know what's good and what isn't." No, you don't. You know what you like. You know what you like. You know what you like. If you like something, you're going to want to see more of it. But just because you like something and want to see more of it doesn't make that thing that you like the best thing. It doesn't even make what you like to even be good. You are allowed to have your perspectives. You're allowed to like what you like, but you shouldn't push that onto other people. Because I'll tell you this much, you dang sure ain't going to push that on me. You can say all day, well, this stuff isn't really that good. If you can't specify what makes it not good, then I'm going to immediately assume that you're saying that you don't like something because you don't like something. And you want me to agree with your dislike. I'm not going to. If you don't like something, that's you, buddy. Yeah, I need to get that off. But yeah, I don't do that bandwagon stuff. If I like something, you're not going to tell me to dislike it because you dislike it. Alrighty, I'm out. Wrestling is awesome.